Hey guys, my name's Nick, and I've been collecting video games on and off for about 20 years now, so I thought it'd be a good idea to start making some videos about my collection, about my opinion on the various games and systems I have, and talk about the various pickups that I make on a semi-regular basis. So I want to talk about 5 games I picked up today from a store called Bowser's Basement in Taunton, Massachusetts. Typically, I really focus most of my collecting on the NES. I've been collecting NES for about 20 years now, on and off, starting very regularly, going to Funkoland and stores like that back in around 1997, 98, but then really picking it up and getting more serious the last few years where I've gotten a lot of the rarer games. So I wanted to talk about 5 games I got today, 3 of which are pretty rare, games that you don't see all that often, and 2 of which are very common and not that great games, frankly. So first I want to talk about SCAT, which is a NES game by Natsumi. It's kind of a mixture between like Contra and a shooter, like a flying shooter. You fly around on some sort of jetpack and kind of shoot various types of machine gun bullets, and usually have some sort of option that helps you shoot extra bullets around you. It's unfortunately named game, but it's pretty rare. I actually have the European version as well, which is called Action in New York. I bought it by accident a few years ago, not too long ago, because I actually thought it was a North American release. I only typically collect the North American licensed NES games. I do have a bunch of unlicensed games from the old days, but really lately I've been focused on the licensed games. So this game is probably one of the 20 rarest or so NES games, and I've seen it around. I see a lot of versions of this with pretty beat up labels. In fact, this version is pretty beat up as well. See, there's a tear on the label right up there, and another spot up here. But I think it's one that I wanted to get in my collection because, frankly, it's probably the best version I've seen. So I, later on maybe I'll get a better label copy. But I'm happy with this to add to my collection today. Next we have Stanley, The Search for Dr. Livingston. It's a game by Electrobrain. They typically make pretty good games when it comes to NES. I don't know too much about their output on other systems, but on NES I can think of a few games that are very good. This is a rare game. I've actually never seen a copy of this before, and it's actually pretty good. So I was surprised it's actually not that expensive of a game. I think right now it's going around $30, which is, I think a bargain for a game that you never ever see. And it's kind of a Metroidvania. You go around, you collect different items, and you try to get through each stage. I didn't play it for all that long, but I've read about it. The graphics are okay, the controls are okay, but it seems like a game that I'd really like to play through if I can ever get enough time, because it definitely felt like a game that's pretty good and in the style of like a Goonies 2, or certainly not as good as a Metroid, obviously, but pretty good. Then we have Cliffhanger, and this is based on the early 90s movie with Sylvester Stallone. Very good movie. Not all that well put together, kind of cheesy, but I think it definitely has its qualities, and you can kind of get that so bad it's good quality out of it and have a good laugh. Sly's always great, right? But the game itself is pretty awful. It's a rare game, but it's by Sony and ImageSoft, who really didn't make very good games for NES in general. But the graphics kind of look like they were made in MS Paint. The control sucks. Not a game that you want to be playing for very long. You're better off be spending your time watching the movie or something else in Sly's catalog. Then we have 2 more common games that I got today. The reason I did that is because I had a few doubles that I traded in that I had bought by accident. So, it was just a 1-for-1 trade for common games. And we've got Ryne Sandburg Plays Bases Loaded 3. Ryne Sandburg, if you don't remember, was a second baseman for the Chicago Cubs for many years. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, so it's kind of funny to see these old games with guys whose career didn't last all that long, as opposed to a Jordan versus Bird, or Magic Johnson's Fast Break, or Roger Clemens MVP Baseball, or even Frank Thomas. These Bases Loaded games, there were 4 of them for the NES. What I don't like about them is the perspective is from behind the pitcher rather than from behind the batter. I find it very difficult to hit that way. So I don't think these are really that great, but I guess they sold enough to sell 4 of them for the NES. And I actually do remember more often playing the Super Bases Loaded, which Ryan Sandburg also played on Super NES, using the Boston Crabs was the team that I would typically play with. I always try to play with the Boston teams regardless of the game. But even that game wasn't that great. But I do remember and have some fond memories of playing it with some friends. When I was in junior high school. And then lastly, we have Orb 3D, which is a game by High Tech. It's kind of a 3D version of a game like Breakout, which is kind of a one-player Pong, where the ball instead comes at you through the screen, or other various angles as opposed to just going straight up or side to side. So I didn't really like it all that much. This isn't a game I'd be playing all that often, but unfortunately, when you're collecting NES games or really any system, you're going to run into some games that you really just have for the numbers and not really because you really want to play them all that much. But that's 5 more games in my collection, and I'm getting close to the end of the licensed NES games. So I've got 81 to go. A lot of those are actually pretty common games. I still have to get a Stadium Events, which who knows if I'll ever get that, and a Flintstones 2, but the majority of the rare games I actually have. And some of the rare games I don't have are just ones that are hard to come by that aren't really all that expensive, like a Stanley, for example. So I want to get towards the end of the collection, but I don't want to do it too quick because I have a lot of fun doing this, and I don't really want to make it too easy on myself. So hopefully I'll find most of these games out in the wild. And then, after I've done that, who knows what I'll do next. Maybe I'll start Super Nintendo, which I have a few games on. I don't think I'll do N64. Who knows what system I'll target. But I'll also probably be going back through and fixing a lot of the games where the label's kind of messed up. That happens oftentimes with LGN games. Typically the later releases, I think they use a pretty poor sticker label that really kind of gets beat up pretty bad and often loses color and gets stained and all that. So most of the LJN games I have, particularly the later releases, really kind of look beat up. And a few other games, my Alien 3 needs some work. Even my Super Mario Brothers 2, I'd like to get a new version of that. So that's just the first episode of my channel. Really excited to start doing this and talking about my collection. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And I hope to see you next time. Thanks, guys.